group. Welcome to Molly's Media Corner, where we will review movies and do physical media videos. This will be our first movie review, and we're starting with one of my favorite movies of all time, The Mask, starring Jim Carrey, released in 1994. This movie, I love this movie. It has always been in my top 5. Who knows what my other top 5 are? Back to the Future, RoboCop, a few others. But The Mask, I have never stopped enjoying this movie. This first movie is a timeless classic, and I also admire the franchise as a whole. Mainly, this first movie, a comic book series, animated series, fan films, certainly some negatives like Son of the Mask, even though I did appreciate and admire some aspects of that movie. It's all around terrible. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about this first movie. So without further ado, what does this movie mean to me? I first saw this movie when I was about 2 or 3 years old, back in 2004, 2005, somewhere around there. Yes, that was over 20 years ago. Holy crap, I'm turning 23 in 2 months. You're old. Throughout my whole childhood, this was a movie that I would watch all the time, and I'd pretend to be the Mask on the playground and in general when I was little. I also recall really wanting to possess the wooden mask of Loki myself. I really wanted to possess the mask of Loki myself and use it for my own purposes, but who wouldn't? I got this replica of the mask on Amazon when I was about 16. It was awesome, but paint started shipping and I had to repaint it. So here it is, the repainted mask of Loki. I've got a few Loki masks. You might have seen me over on Surround Productions, Red Raptor Entertainment, one of those names where I live streamed me painting the mask, but I painted it neon green with a golden nose piece. But I decided later that I wanted a mask that looked more like the one in the movie, so I went and repainted it. I hope it resembles the one in the movie a little better. But anyway, the plot of this movie. Well, the movie is about Stanley Ipkiss, played by Jim Carrey. Stanley is a kind-hearted but unlucky bank clerk who is constantly overlooked and pushed around by the world. One night, after being rejected at the Coco Bongo Club, he discovers a mysterious wooden mask in the harbor, and he puts it on and transforms into a wild, green-faced trickster with reality-bending cartoon powers and no inhibitions. As the Mask, Stanley becomes confident, fearless, and dangerously impulsive, using his new abilities to get revenge, embarrass criminals, pursue Tina, Cameron Diaz's film debut. Very good start to her career. But his chaotic antics attract police His chaotic We'll do it live. We'll do it live! Fuck it! Okay. His chaotic antics attract police attention in the interest of gangster Dorian Tyrell, played by Peter Green, who wants the mask's power for himself. Part of why I'm doing this review is in memory of Peter Green. He died recently. Fuck 2025. It was a horrible year. a lot of bad stuff went down. That ruined my whole night, finding out that he had died. We had just lost Kari Hiroyuki Tagawa, who played Shang Tsung in the 1995 Mortal Kombat movie. It really sucked that we lost those two. I hope that their families recover well. So, Stan Lee struggles with the darker side of the mask, realizing that it amplifies his suppressed desires and anger, and it could turn him into something monstrous if he lost control. When Dorian steals the mask and becomes an even more violent version of its power, Stan Lee must confront him to save Tina and stop the destruction. And at the end of the movie, Stan Lee rejects the mask and throws it in the lake, in the river, whatever, choosing to remain himself rather than rely on its corrupting power, and begins a genuine relationship with Tina, free to grow without hiding behind a supernatural alter ego. Now, what most people don't know is that the mask is based on a comic book by Dark Horse Comics, who also made Hellboy. The mask was gory as hell, violent as shit, and scary as fuck. It revolves around multiple people wearing the mask and usually going on killing sprees. They got more lighter in tone as they went on and tried to be more like the movie. Stanley Ipkiss is a completely different character in the comic book. Like, in the comic book, he's this asshole who hates everybody, and he buys the mask because it's a completely different mask from the one seen in the movie, and he puts it on, and he goes on a killing spree. He starts off with specific people, and then it just evolves into random people in the street, just innocent civilians. And within the first couple of issues, he dies. His girlfriend Kathy blows his brains out, and then she puts the mask on. But anyway, the movie was originally supposed to be more like the comic book, but Jim Carrey made it into his own thing, and it worked out. Jim Carrey as Stanley Ipkiss / The Mask completely sells the movie. He's not just funny, he's genuinely relatable. Stanley is awkward, kind-hearted, and easy to root for, which makes the contrast with his chaotic alter ego even more entertaining. You understand him without the mask, and you really enjoy watching him while he's wearing it. The balance is what makes the character work so well. Carrey used a lot of his personal life as inspiration for the character. The character was completely different in the comic book, like I said already. He based Stanley on a lot of his father, portraying him as someone who works his ass off and always gives their all, but never gets the credit they deserve. In addition, the yellow suit the Mask wears at the Coco Bongo Club, the one that's iconic with the character, is based on a yellow suit that Jim Carrey wore during stand-up, which his mom made for him. Stanley is a really good character in the movie, especially in part due to Jim Carrey. The supporting cast is also great. Cameron Diaz, as well as Tina Carlisle, and Peter Green also really sells the character of Dorian. I would have loved to see him come back in a sequel. Dorian, at surface level, is just your average 90s villain, but he's awesome. When he wants to be, or whenever he's needed to be, he's scary, he's intimidating. The other mobster characters, like Eddie, are also memorable. A really badass group of guys, in my opinion. One of my favorite arcs in the movie is when Dorian puts the mask on. So, Peggy Brandt, the reporter, sells Stanley out to the mob for $50,000, and they proceed to hang him over a printing press as Dorian puts the mask on. His transformation doesn't include the tornado, it instead consists of black clouds and thunder. The mask doesn't even wrap around his head or do anything crazy, he just becomes submerged in the smoke. Sure, he's nowhere as funny or charismatic as Stanley, but he poses a serious threat, and he really raises the stakes. His design is also pretty badass as the mask. I know the nostalgia critic said that he looked like Arnold Schwarzenegger, but whatever. Although I do wonder how it would have looked if he was bald, more comic accurate. The climax of the movie is very fun. Dorian breaks the door down and throws hands with the mob leader, Nico. They shoot him, and he just absorbs the bullets and spits them out of his mouth and kills them. Also, during the climax, the dog Milo gets involved and steals the mask for himself, showing that the mask also works on animals. I've always wondered what it'd be like if one of my pets found the mask. Let's see. Well, Mocha would have hospitalized me. Same with my sister's old dog, Rex. He was a little rat terrier who barked and charged at people. I have a picture of Rex with my mask replica before I painted it. Sometimes he'd tolerate me, especially if I had Doritos, but anyway, Milo gets the mask and he pees on Eddie. He bites another mobster, Orlando, in the ass and rips his pants. That's fucking hilarious. Both of those. The whole scene with Milo is awesome. I will take a moment to talk about the special effects. Sorry, I'm not annoyed or anything. I just got kind of a headache. But I'm doing this video. Anyway, the special effects are also incredible for their time, especially the transformation scenes. They're hilarious, but there's also something unsettling about them. That first transformation in particular is borderline horrific and genuinely scary. I remember it freaking me out as a kid and genuinely feeling so bad for Milo during them. The later, quicker transformations that don't showcase much special effects or make that first one really stand out. Other than that, the other wild things the mask does are also fun. Half of this I'm just now realizing was CGI. Such as when Stanley pulls the mask off of Milo at the club. For a second, the wooden mask is not a prop, it is completely CG. Also, when he's holding the Tommy gun, when he makes it. I thought the only CG parts were when he was creating it, but I was very wrong. Now let me talk about the song and dance scenes. Okay. Hey Pachuco is a very fun scene. The way he dances with Tina and then gets shot at, breaking his tie, which morphs back into Stanley's jammies. Thereafter, found by Calloway, and he confronts him about it the next day. But the one everybody talks about, Cuban Pete. Absolutely amazing scene, and after a while you start singing and dancing along too if you've watched it as many times as I have. Not to mention I love Calloway and Doyle. They're great, especially Doyle. He's like the worst cop ever. Not that he does anything bad, he just does a lot of buffooning around, such as ordering food right as Calloway finds out for a fact that Stanley's the mask. During the Cuban Pete number, he almost starts singing and dancing too, only for Calloway to pull him back and say, "You start dancing, I'll blow your brains out." That got such a huge laugh out of me. The soundtrack's also incredible. As mentioned, Royalty Crown Revu, Hey Pachuco, Cuban Pete, Heidi Ho by K7, a score by Randy Edelman, who also did Billy Madison and more. This is really good. I enjoy his scores and movies. I already mentioned that I enjoyed The Mask as a franchise. The movie is an all-time classic, a staple of my childhood, even though the film was over 15 years old when I really got into it. I was born right around the end of the VHS lifespan in America, when DVD became the standard format for everybody. Most kids by 2010, 2012 were on the hottest thing at the time, but I grew up in the middle of nowhere and on this plot of land in northern Illinois. I grew up on this plot of land in northern Illinois, 10 minutes away from Cherry Valley, Illinois. Didn't see a lot of new stuff when I was that age. I always had this VHS of The Mask, though. I mean, I didn't have the case, but I had this VHS that has my sister's name on it. Now, this VHS is very standard 90s release. There's many variants of this Mask VHS. There's the one that just has the standard black and white New Line label, but the one that I got has like white and green. And there's also the 2005 reprint, some early 2000s reprint of The Mask on VHS. But I'll talk more about those tapes whenever I get around to reviewing Son of the Mask. But this has something that has never been seen again since. It's not been on any, it's not been featured in any later re-releases of The Mask on DVD or Blu-ray or anything. And it hasn't been featured in any subsequent Space Ghost media either. But it contains this interview of Jim Carrey and director Charles Russell with Space Ghost on an episode of Space Ghost Coast to Coast. And I loved the shit out of that. That was very entertaining. I love Space Ghost. I love Space Ghost Coast to Coast. That's a very 90s cartoon. I also had a double feature DVD that had both The Mask and Son of the Mask, and I watched shit out of them both. I also really recall wanting to play The Mask video game, but that was on consoles that were nearly 20 years old during the Xbox 360, PlayStation 3 era, and I didn't end up playing this game until the end of last year, 2025. The Mask for Super Nintendo is a hard freaking game. I had to use cheat codes. Maybe I'll play it sometime on the channel. Maybe a future brand channel. We'll figure it out. I also had some of the Kenner figures growing up. I had this mask that spins around with mufflers. I had the Stanley and Dorian figures, which were those head-changing figures. Okay, scooch over a bit since camera's facing over here. I had those Stanley and Dorian figures, which were those head-changing figures, similar to those old Power Ranger toys. I have the Mask in his purple suit, the one with the mechanism that makes his eyes and tongue pop out. He also came with a mallet and an alarm clock, but seemed to have lost those with time. There's also the animated series, which I enjoyed, but I've only seen a couple of episodes. Otherwise read descriptions and heard bits and pieces. I have the DVD, which contains a pilot episode, very bare bones release. I have this DVD. I have This DVD, which contains the pilot episode, The Mask is Always Greener, on the other side. Otherwise, I read descriptions or heard bits and pieces, and it's a very bare bones release. It doesn't even include a menu. There's lots of footage which was cut from the film, seen on the work print, which was leaked online, such as a scene where Stanley encounters those punks in the street without the mask, and they steal his watch, which would add a lot of context on Stanley's end during his exchange with Mrs. Peeman. The work print I also really enjoyed. From what I saw, there are 2 officially released deleted scenes, which have been included on the DVD releases and the Blu-ray. The first is an alternate opening with Vikings burying the mask in a chest where it's later found by a diver. The other is the death of Peggy. Right after screwing Stanley, Dorian picks her up and throws her in a printing press, killing her, quote unquote, plastering her face all over page 1. There are many other scenes that should have been officially released as well. I'd love to see an extended cut or remaster of the work print. And there are also many Mask fan films, such as Return of the Mask and the 2017 movie, upon several others. I'd love to do one sometime. I really enjoyed Return of the Mask. But anyway, this is my first movie review, and I ain't got too much more to say. There will definitely be more Mask-related videos. I will revisit Son of the Mask and such. The Mask 1994 is a great movie. This is a staplehood. This is a staple of my childhood and still a favorite of mine in 2026. Jim Carrey sells the movie. He really sells the movie as well as the rest of the cast and characters. Special effects, while some may say they're dated, are actually really good for their time. Story and world building are also very intriguing to me. I love the mythos and mystery of the mask. This movie will never stop being a favorite of mine, and I will continue to enjoy it for many generations. Rating Smokin out of 10. And that is all she wrote. I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. I'll see you later.
Mm-hmm.